Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time for a channel current events. And today I thought I would discuss something that has come up a lot in the comments. People always bring up, well, Jason, didn't you used to say this? Didn't you used to say that? And I think people forget that we could go a lot of directions with that. This channel has been up a very long time. And what people forget, if they go to the original videos here, this wasn't my first fitness channel. I had a fitness channel with 38,000 subscribers and about 1,000 videos that I shut down when I made this one. Okay, this is a second channel. There was a lot of legal things going on with channel, what countries it was based out of, everything else at the time that I did that. Okay, there was a lot going on, and I was also planning on eventually moving back to the United States. I was living abroad and I needed to change some stuff. And again, I had a lot of things going on behind the scenes when I switched channels. But people forget that I had an older channel, and they'll say, well, you went through this period of minimalism. I did. But if you guys go back and look, and I'll see if I can remember to link a video down below, one of my joking videos, one of my old trolling videos with music in the background and my bag push stuff of me rotating clips of Conjugate training in. Okay? That was like 7 years ago. My original channel, I briefly did a stint of single ply lifting. Like there's old videos of me benching in a bench press shirt. There's videos of me in a squat suit out there probably if we were to dig around enough. And I think I have some of that old footage stored away on one of my drives. Some of the older training stuff going back further than 7 years. Okay, again, people forget that I've done some single ply stuff. They forget that I did the full West Side system for quite a while. And I've always promoted to some extent a lot of that. And I was influenced at certain points in recent years by a lot of coaches out there who are saying, oh, that stuff doesn't work for raw lifters, who had their own spin on things. And I think, again, people have to remember, I study what every single coach out there has to say. If there's any popular coach out there, I have probably read all of their material. I don't care whether it's Mark Rippetoe or Louis Simmons. I'm intimately familiar with everyone's stuff. And what we also have to recall is that a few years back, I was going through a lot of things in my personal life. I don't put my personal life on the internet anymore, and so I'm not going to delve into all the details, but I was under a lot of stress with things you guys didn't see on the camera. Well, some of it you did. But I was under a lot of stress. A lot of times my critical thinking skills were not as clear as they could be. Okay, I was influenced in a lot of ways by different coaches, things that maybe worked best for my personal situation in life at the time. And I did make a lot of mistakes through that time period. Okay, I've worked very, very hard in correcting those mistakes. But I'm at a point in my life now to where I don't have life stress. I've learned how to cut out life stress. And the majority of my focus, or at least what you guys get to see, is about strength. Strength, strength, strength. I live and breathe strength all day, every day, 7 days a week. I have this YouTube, which I make videos for daily. And of course, I have my coaching business. And as of right now, I have 18 clients. And at the rate things are going, I'm predicting 20 plus by the end of the month. Okay. I'm coaching. I'm making videos. I'm training. And I've learned to cut out anyone out of my life who's remotely stressful, any sort of stressful stuff in my life. I get rid of it. That allows me to focus clearly on these things and think logically and think things through. And these days, I don't worry about dogma in training. I worry about what works. I worry about what works. And realistically, when I look back at my periods of time where I did more training minimalism, I was weaker. Because if you guys go back and find some of the older stuff, the conjugate stuff, before you guys even saw me doing these other meets, hey, I was capable of squatting 500 pounds already then. Right? I had a 600-pound deadlift when I was messing with conjugate stuff before. I was benching well past 300 for reps. Okay? I've had to come around full circle and return back to the things that I know work and understand them better. I didn't understand those things as well back then, and I made mistakes. But you know, it's 8 years ago. I delved a lot deeper into all the works of these guys. I know some of the guys who trained at Westside, and I talked to them in private, who trained at Westside for 5 or 10 years. So I asked them about things. I've learned a lot about those training methods, and these are the training methods I use that I coach clients with. And they do work, and they work for raw lifters. I was wrong about that. When I said that and I agreed with people like Rippetoe, oh, this doesn't work for raw lifters, I was wrong. because I'm making it work. Look at what my raw lifts have done. Okay, and I have clients who are the same way. I have guys who were already 400 squatters and 500 deadlifters who I put on Conjugate, and we put 50 pounds on multiple types of squats and deadlifts. Not just, oh, they're one squat. No, they're back squat, box squats, conventional deadlifts, sumo deadlifts. Okay, they all get stronger. By that same token, I've taken these same training methods, because this is the methods that I coach for my clients as soon as they're able to use this sort of training. Okay, I've had clients who on more minimalist programs like Starting Strength, 531, things like that, were sub 300 pound squatters, barely deadlifting 300 pounds. Okay, I have clients, multiple clients like that, who without them gaining a bunch of weight, so we've kept them at lower body weights, because a lot of these guys don't want to be 200 pounds, and people have to remember that. Not everyone who I coach wants to be 200 pounds. I have guys who want to be 165. And they're not necessarily going to compete in anything, they just want to be strong and fit. And I've taken some guys even using this training system who had 290 squats, 295 squats, and they're squatting mid 300s now. Okay, 340, 350, 360. I had guys who could barely deadlift 300 who have broken 400. Some of them haven't. Some guys who are like 380 or so. But I have guys who are now past 400 on their sumo and their conventional, who using these more minimalist systems were barely cracking 300. And a lot of people say, well, those numbers aren't impressive by a lot of your standards. Yeah, but what I'm finding is that a lot of people can't hit these numbers on minimalist training. And minimalist training works great for the novice. But as I've said before, I had a lot of bias. When I've historically said this is what a novice lifter should be able to hit on these programs, okay, there was a lot of confirmation bias there. So let's come over and let's, again, correct myself as I've done in some of these videos. There's confirmation bias there. Everyone I've trained in person has done that, which has been like 3 guys who I took through novice phases and we got there. Right, guys, I've coached over the years as friends, family members, things like that. We've hit those numbers. But you know what? I'm teaching them. I'm making them learn how to squat and deadlift and bench and everything hands-on. Right? You get tons of guys who I get coaching clients who've been lifting for 3 years who don't know how to squat or bench press. Okay? They cannot squat or bench press when I get them. It's horrific. After 3 years of lifting. And we have to coach that stuff through Skype and videos and everything else, and we fix it. More common than you would think. A lot of you out there probably think that you know how to squat and bench, and you don't. It matters. All right, a lot of guys have no speed strength. They have no tightness. They're just loose and they flop and they slowly try to lift a weight with bad form. We have to correct those things. Okay, that matters. Also, all the people who I saw, I was reading their logs, I'm like, tons of guys were hitting these numbers back in the day on Ice Cream Fitness, right? They were. But how many of the guys who stuck out logs were the guys who were being successful? Right? David Lade doesn't represent the average person who ran my program. He represents an extreme success story. There were people who floundered. And I've said already, okay, I need to take that back. Yes, my strength standards are high, but maybe only 50% of guys even have the genetics to reach the strength standards I set on minimalist programs in the first year. And that's a little more fair statement. When I was saying, well, I think it's normal. Well, normal for the top 50%. Maybe normal for the top 30 or 40%. That's normal. But those are the guys who stick the stuff out. The guys who aren't getting results drop out. And we have to look at that. So we have to look at that bias there. And I was blinded by my own bias. But again, let's come over. I'm at a point in my life where I try to look at things with clarity. I try to look at things objectively with a level head and say, okay, I definitely had some bias clouding my judgment there. So no, I don't promote training minimalism. I think training minimalism is phenomenal for the novice lifter, the true novice. But as we start to get more advanced, I think conjugate type training really is the way to go. And I think for most people's goals, I don't say just for guys who want to do X or Y. No, in general, I think it's generally one of the better ways to train, if not the best. And it's versatile. You can program it around your individual goals. But the concepts behind it work. They absolutely work. And they work at the elite levels in a dozen different sports. And they can work for the average guy if they're correctly implemented. So that is kind of what I promote here. But it's what I originally promoted many years ago also. I've come back around full circle and realized, okay, these other influences I had at this time in my life when my judgment wasn't always the best, again, due to my personal life circumstances. And I'll take ownership for that. I don't want to always blame other people for those things, because I make the choices to let people influence me or let people into my life or do different things, right? Those are choices we make, and we suffer consequences for that. So I was definitely going through points in my life where my judgment was clouded, and I could be influenced by certain coaches and ideas, and I don't always think it was for the best. And the thing that we've got to remember with a lot of the minimalist type coaches, that's for novice lifters, okay? And they're right. You see guys like Ripto who will say, we coach novice lifters. We do not coach elite strength athletes because their methods will not work for advanced lifters. They won't. Unless they are genetically gifted, ridiculously genetically gifted. In which case, just about anything that you train them hard will work. So, that's the point. They coach novice lifters, and those concepts behind that work for novices. And even then, only if you implement them correctly. In other words, you can implement all this minimalism and everything in the world that you want, but if you can't figure out how to squat and bench press correctly and tightly and how to set them up, none of it's going to work. You're going to be weak. You're still going to have a 275-pound squat after 3 years. That's just what's going to happen. You're never going to hit a 225 bench. If you're genetically average and you don't learn how to execute the list correctly and get enough training volume on any system, including a minimalist one. And that's the reality. But people need to remember what I have said and done has evolved over time, and a lot of it has come back around full circle. And I've gone back to the philosophies I did use a long time ago, and I've learned them on a much deeper level by, again, talking to the experts who use them and implement them and implementing these things myself and looking closely at everything they write, discussing with some of them in private. And I've learned how to coach this system very effectively. I have quite a few success stories behind the scenes. Some of them are semi-public if people knew where to look. Some of them are not. But I've got enough success with that yeah, I'm comfortable coaching this system, and it is generally what I coach also. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.